Okay, Mike, welcome back. We are going to talk about meaning and purpose and coherency. But before we do that, we should talk about our action items. And one of the action items related directly to our book that we're going to talk about today, and that was for me to listen to the Nathan Barry episode of that had Bill Burnett and Dave Evans on it, and I did listen to that, and I've never felt more proud to have a green check mark by one of my action items. And I mean, in all seriousness, I've been following Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, who are the authors of this book today, for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. So it was cool to hear them not in a book, and it was cool to get to, I mean, by no means meet, but get to hear somebody that you've talked highly about, Nathan Barry. You've spoken highly about him through the Craft and Commerce and through Kit and through these other things a couple different times. So it was fun to hear that dialogue and then kind of see what they think are like the highlights of this book. And it's like, if I have a very limited amount of time to talk about it, here's what I want to talk about. Here's what I want to talk about. So that was a really good episode. So that was action item number one for me.
So before we move on from that one though, one thing that stood out to me from that episode was how effortlessly those two went back and forth. They're basically one person, two bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, they've done it for like 20 years or 30 years or whatever at the D school. I mean, they are the guys who founded the D school and like were the core faculty in the D school. So sorry if you don't know what I'm talking about. That's Stanford's design school, and they call it the D school, which is, I mean, world renowned at this point and for what it does, helping people to think like designers and human-centered design and things like that. So it's really cool to hear them. All right. So my next one was, what are free throws or layups for gumption or keeping things moving, and how do I plan these into my routine? I think the biggest thing I came out of this one with, as I reflected on it, was sit down and start. So the thing I need to start doing is I need to start putting into my calendar not an hour of do this task, but a 15-minute sit down and start this task. Because what I have found, and I knew this and I've always known this, if I sit down and start, I usually will get into the groove and I'll usually work on it for a half hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it is. So it's like, I don't think the ability to focus is the issue. I think the ability to get started is the issue. So that is my free throw. Sit your butt down and start the thing. Don't try to complete the thing. Don't try to make any major goals. And I think about this. Do you remember a couple months ago, the writing challenge you and I kind of took on? So many words per day?
I do.
It wasn't the actual writing of it. I actually like that part. Like when you get into it and you're like, I mean, you're just putting words on pages and it's like, are they good? Who cares? Right? There's words on pages. Like this is great. It's I should probably put some words on pages today. I'll do it later. I should probably, but I have to actually like go get my computer, So that's my thing, for that one. So there you go. That's what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to, in my calendar, actually schedule those 10 or 15 minute blocks of getting started. And I'm even going to call them like getting started, or I'm going to code it GS, like get started, boom, with whatever the thing is.
I like it.
Okay. Third one is, what's at least one intentional milestone between now and the end of 2026? Nope. I thought for like 5 or 10 minutes on that one. And I said, I'm too overwhelmed right now. It's the end of the semester. And I still have to finish up the seminary stuff that I'm working on. And no, I'm not going to do that. And like, I could have copped out and said, oh, just finish the seminary, like this little seminary thing that I'm doing. But that's not, I don't want that to be it. I want it to be like a fun thing that I, didn't sign up for a class for. It's like, I'm going to do this intentionally. So I'm intentionally, sorry to use that word so many times, but I'm on purpose not going to pick this right now, but I'm going to think about it as soon as the semester's over and I have a little more time. You, sir, also had 3 action items. And what were they?
Let's go in order of how poorly I did it then. So the first one, how can I add milestones to my life? Nope, didn't even consider that one. Even though I am in the middle of that because my oldest is graduating from high school in like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely a milestone in my life,
Yes,
but we're a little bit in survival mode with that one. That makes it sound worse than it really is, but it's been a busy season, and yeah, lots of people, lots of different places every single night of the week with the musical and the end of the year choir concerts and the graduation stuff. It's been crazy.
Did soccer start yet?
No, but have I told you that I'm the high school coach this year?
You did tell me that. That's why I asked. Is it fall? Is soccer in the fall?
It's officially fall, yeah. But
When do you
but
start
there
practice?
have been things that I have been roped into already.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. Also terrified by it. Transitional routines. I thought a little bit about this, but it didn't stay around the transitional routines. It really was like, what kind of work do I want to do at different points? So I noticed that a lot of my best creative writing happens at the first part of the day. So if I can protect everything up until like 11 a.m. for writing, that would be ideal. Problem is I can't do that every single day.
Okay.
Like today I had 3 meetings back to back to back. And so first break I got was like 10:30. So is what it is. I can't control it all, but I think that's kind of the direction I want to go. And then with that, I think the transitional routines kind of come along for the ride. Like if I am doing the heavy lifting creative work at the beginning of the day, then after lunch, early afternoon, I'm thinking that's when I should be doing, first of all, the admin type stuff. When I say admin type stuff, that to me is like checking in with the community. That's using my crazy news feed app where I can like read stuff and send it over to Instapaper so I can look at it when I'm in my comfy chair in my living room at the end of the day, that sort of stuff. So I think that there's a little bit of overlap there, but in terms of just knocking out the transitional routines, I wasn't able to make any progress on that. I did, however, make some progress on the other one.
Yes, you did.
So the other one here, it's funny because as we record this, I just reviewed the previous episode. It's going to get published shortly. And I brought up, I think maybe I should try mindfulness meditation one more time. And you were even like, should you though?
Yep.
Do you really want to do this to yourself yet again? And then when you said that, something clicked for me. It's like, yeah, like I keep trying it. I keep failing at it. Why do I keep failing at it? And as I was reviewing the episode, I was talking about this app that I actually really liked. By the time I actually started using it, it had already been abandoned. And it was called Do Nothing. So I was like, this app is not that complicated. Maybe I can make a better version of this. So my action item was to not just try mindfulness meditation again. It was to vibe code a mindfulness meditation app.
And
that is what I did.
And he did, and it looks great, right? Like it looks very clean. It's got your practical PKM stylings.
Yep.
So that's great.
I wonder if I can share screen and maybe even show you what this looks like, because that would be kind of cool for
that would be cool.
The video folks. By the way, we record these episodes live on YouTube, so you should come hang out with us sometime.
You should. There's 2 people.
All right, let me see if I can share just the Bezel app, which is what I can use to send stuff to my computer from my phone. Okay, so yeah, I think I can. Here we go. Share. There it is. Look at that. It even helped me with the icon, which is in the lower right corner of the dock there.
Mm-hmm.
I am calling this app because I'm terrible at naming things. So with some assistance from Claude, I'm calling it Halo. I'll show you why here in a second. There is literally 2 screens to this entire app. The one that it opens to is this meditate screen where there's a timer, a slider, and then a start button. So you can adjust the timer. It defaults, or maybe this is just what I did last time, was 5 minutes. So when you tap start, it has this animation. So this purple circles going around, and there's a countdown timer in the middle. There are 2 very subtle rings outside of that, though, that breathe in and out with the expanding and contracting circle. You maybe can't see that real well in the screen share, but this actually I'm pretty proud of, because I got this, I set the timing of this to 5 seconds where it goes out, 5 seconds where it comes in, because that's what felt right for me in terms of deep breath in, deep breath out. So a little bit of a visual reinforcement of what's actually supposed to be happening here while you're staring at your screen, looking at this timer.
My goodness. That's really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was neat. So when it gets done, it logs it. I'll just reset it for now. But the stats here, though, this is cool. So the stats, and this is even updated since the screenshot that I sent you. There's a heat map, which is based off of completely arbitrary numbers that I made up because I made this app for me.
Yep.
And I thought, I want this heat map to go from I didn't do it at all to I actually did a lot today. What is a lot? For me, it's over 15 minutes. So there are different shades of that purple based off of the total amount of time that you spent or that you logged mindfully meditating with this app. Then there's the 4 different boxes there with your current streak, the longest streak, the total sessions, and the total minutes. Okay. And then at the top is the beloved chillometer. Now, I don't remember I don't remember ever finding out exactly how this worked, but I remembered something like this from the Do Nothing app. In fact, it was 10 o'clock at night. This wasn't there. I was showing this to Toby, and he's like, dude, you got to bring in the chillometer. And I was like, oh yeah, the chillometer. I wonder if I could build that logically. So what this does, there's actually a name for this. I forget what it is, but it's like a step scale sort of a thing. So it gives you the percentage. So this is the test version of this for me, which I've had on my phone for 2 days. So the way this works is it starts at 0. And then when you complete the streak for that day, it will add your current streak to the total. So from on the first day, it goes from 0% to 1% when you actually complete a session. Okay. But then the second day, your streak is now at 2. All right. So it adds 2, which is why it's at 3. If I complete it tomorrow, it will be at 6. So you build on the momentum that you get from building the streak. Does that make sense?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you miss a day, your streak is over, but your chillometer doesn't go all the way down to 0.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It actually just decreases by 1. Okay. So this is actually the same logic that I saw in Jesse J. Anderson helped build an app called Polar Habits, which was sort of like a different way of thinking about those streaks to combat that same issue. It's like, well, I broke my streak. Now all my motivation is gone because I got to start all over. It's like, no, you don't actually. There's still a lot of good that's happened so far by building that streak. And the fact that you missed one day doesn't mean that the whole thing gets blown up. So that's what the chillometer is designed to do.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, that's the whole app. And honestly, like, I feel like I could probably release this right now.
I was wondering, I was like, are you going to release it? Because even though like the details of that section are specific to you, I mean, it looks clean enough that you could easily release that.
Well, that's the thing is like, I have tried so many different versions of this type of thing in the past, and I would find one and it would work for a little while and then it would get abandoned. And then I would find one and it would work for a little while and it would get abandoned. This one's not going to get abandoned because it's easy for me to maintain this, and it's a tool I want to exist for myself. Yes. It is working for getting me to practice mindfulness meditation every day, because this is one of those data points that we talked a little bit about in the pro show, where this is a data point which in the past maybe wasn't important to me, but it is important to me. So I'm going to build a system to get the data that I want to reinforce the positive behavior change I want to make. And I vibe coded the thing in probably a couple of hours. And I like it better than just about any other version of a simple mindfulness meditation app that I've tried. And all of the ones, I've tried them all. I've tried Headspace. I've tried Calm. I've tried all of them. I wrote several articles for the Sweet Setup back in the day on like the best mindfulness meditation app. And that was the one that I would have to update all the time, because it's like, oh, that one's no longer around. Oh, that one's no longer around.
Yeah.
There's the big players that are like $80 a year. insanely expensive.
Yeah.
And then there's the really cheap ones where a couple bucks and they just don't get supported. If I were trying to make money off of this, I would probably abandon it as well. There's so much competition in that space. However, I just want this tool to exist.
Exactly.
So why not release it, charge 99 cents for it, right? A one-time cost. I'm not asking for a subscription. I'm not promising
anything.
The moon.
Anything.
Yeah, exactly.
The timer will work and it'll track some things.
The timer will work. Exactly. So, I like it a lot. And I think it might actually stick this time. I guess, famous last words. We'll see. But
okay, without going too far down a rabbit hole, because we do need to talk about a book. Mike, when is the Mike Schmidt's app design studio? Like, when is it launching? When is the website going to go live? Like, when is all that? Like, the practical PKM, we design apps, we vibe code apps that are very specific, but very good.
I don't know. I thought about that. Like, should I have an app section on my website? Because there are now a couple different tools that, well, this is the third one. The second one is that newsfeed app, which I started building that. And I was like, no one's going to care about this but me. I just want a way to send stuff to Instapaper so I can read it on my Supernote Nomad. Yeah. And that people are like, actually, this is really cool. I want to use this. By the way, added a whole bunch of stuff to that. I came across an app called Current, which is really all about the Oliver Burkeman RSS stuff just floats by you. Okay, so they have, their feed is called The River. The app is called Current Reader, Current. And it's a good app. But I had some back and forth with the developer who I'd actually met there in Wisconsin. And so I didn't realize that when I covered that app for the Screencast Online module that I did on it, had some back and forth. And I was like, well, I'd really love the ability to send this to Instapaper with a keyboard hotkey. And he's like, I will accommodate your ridiculous Instapaper request. I was like, oh, okay. Well, his point, and it's kind of fair, is like, who uses Instapaper in 2026? Yeah, exactly. I do. Me. So that didn't actually happen the way I wanted it to. He's like, I'll just use a share sheet. And I was like, not exactly what I'm going for, but okay. So I was like, maybe I can implement a version of that. So what I did is I built in this whole idea of freshness to the things in the feed. And there is a line where it says you're up to date. And everything below that is just a little bit grayed out. So you can still read it very easily. But the stuff above that, the titles are white as opposed to gray. So they pop a little bit more. And the idea is that you go down there and you mark things as red as you go. And then if you refresh all those things that you've currently read, they go below the visual indicator as like you've caught up. And there's a separate one, which is called fresh. And it just shows the things that are, that meet that freshness threshold. So the threshold is different based on the platform. Mastodon and Blue Sky, it's a couple of hours. Blog post, I think, is like a day. YouTube is a couple of days. And you can configure, what's fresh in the settings for the different platforms. But yeah, I'm really happy with where that one is at too. So you may have noticed a bunch of new test flight builds for that one in the last couple of days as well.
Mike's just over here. He's just over here grinding on his vibe coding.
But they're all things that I want to exist. So to answer your question, like when does this stuff become, the studios get opened? I don't really know, but I've been thinking about that because it all fits with the whole practical PKM ethos. Mm-hmm. Even the creator bot stuff, which is right now just for like the VIP members of the library, but I made a whole bunch of changes to that, Cory. Yeah. I actually put that behind so there is an email account associated with it, but you don't need a password. There's like no credentials. I put your email in the database, and then if it recognizes the emails in the database, when you try to log in, it'll ask you for the magic link, and then it'll save your login info. The reason for that is because everything that it does now helps you build out the context that you use when you are working with the AI. Mm-hmm. So it'll help walk you through the frameworks of like identifying your ideal customer profile. And then at the end of that, it'll say, okay, so if I were to summarize this is what you've told me. Want me to write that to your profile? And then it uses that in the profile every time that you get feedback on a piece of content. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're developing really cool stuff. Like this is this is an area of your creator life that I was not anticipating, but it's really cool to watch happen.
Me either. And I have no idea what to do with it.
That's great.
Right now, it's just like, oh, library members, I guess you guys can try this stuff out. Like I have to figure out a way to if someone just wants access to that, like how do they do it? And I have no idea currently, but that is kind of the direction I've been thinking about going, is like practical PCAMs where I talk about this stuff. I've got the resources like Life HQ and the library and things like that already. It would make sense that I've got some other apps and tools that would help you implement the things. And I got to do some deep thinking about how all that ties together.
Yeah, that's fun though. That's fun. Okay, we need to move on though. At this point, let's talk about today's book. If you're ready, are you ready, Mike?
Sorry,
no,
a bit of a tangent there.
This is great. Yeah, this is great. Okay, so we are reading today "How to Live a Meaningful Life" by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. Bill Burnett and Dave Evans became, it's probably wrong to say they became popular, because they were always like well known in the educational design community because they ran the Stanford Design School or D School. But they became, I would say, more popular through their original book, Design Your Life. So it was a thing that they had done where they run students through a design process thinking about their life, and they turned that into a book and a workbook and those kind of things. And that's where I first learned about kind of designing and applying design not to physical products or software products, but designing it to, humans and thinking about human psychology and how it impacts that. So the full title of this book, How to Live a Meaningful Life Using Design Thinking to Unlock Purpose, Joy, and Flow Every Day. This book has an introduction. It's gotten 8 chapters and it's got a conclusion. It is written in a very, at least from my perspective, it's a very like storytelling kind of way. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you some design tips, some design tricks, and design tools. Every chapter at the end has very much an active apply step to it, and they have a try stuff section to it. So when you get to the end of the chapter, they're going to say try stuff, and then they're going to give you a list of things to try, and they're going to kind of detail those out. And I think they're going to detail them out pretty thoroughly to where, for me, it was really easy to go like, oh, I actually know what they want me to try. Like I could go out and do that right now. Like the steps are clear and the steps are there. So that's my high level of the book. Mike, what do you have to add for the high level before we get into the introduction?
I think that's probably pretty good. I'll just mention that the stuff at the end of the chapters, I'm curious how you felt about those exercises if you tried any of them. Maybe you haven't yet. Maybe you've got some as action items. I don't know. But just my perspective on those when I got to the end was I immediately wanted to skip them. Not because the activities were bad, but I think a lot of that stuff, I've got my own version of getting to the essence of it, which is really what they're trying to do there. And so I have no doubt that those exercises come from like the classes that they teach at Stanford and are actually very useful. But I don't think there was a single one that really jumped out to me as like, oh yeah, I'm going to totally do that. It's like, I've done a version of that before.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the chapter by chapter tell you if any of them like jumped out to me, because I don't remember right now. Like there's not one, there's maybe one, but like nothing jumps out to me. But I can remember thinking as I read those, I can see the value in this, not interested. I can see the value in this, like, okay, this one hits more than the other ones. But I think you're absolutely spot on between the Nathan Barry interview and then just what I know about the D School. All of these activities they do with everybody who runs through their programs at the D School. Like they do them all. And we've incorporated some of them. I've mentioned before about the workshop that I ran that like kind of incorporated some Design Your Life elements into it for academics, for university faculty. And man, some of these activities are very they're very meaningful to people when they run through them. We have one of the, I don't know if she's certified or not, because Bill and Dave will do a certification process for academics to run through their Design Your Life stuff. And I can't remember if my colleague was certified or not, but she would go out to Stanford every year or twice a year or whatever and go through D School stuff and then bring it back, and we could use that stuff in our workshops. So it's a really cool thing, and they're really open. Like they just want people to use this stuff. They just want people to be more in this specific book. They want them to think about meaning and purpose and flow and those kind of things. And like, honestly, like yes, it's about a book and they want to write a book that becomes popular and sell the book and all that stuff. But it really, like, you just get the vibe of like, we just want people to be better. And if them interacting with the stuff we're thinking about is better, it makes them better. Fantastic. We've hit a home run. So it's just really kind of cool. Okay. Are you ready to move into the introduction?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay. So the intro, the greatest design problem of all. What I love here is they summarize, they make a statement in here about like the best summaries are like 10 words or less. So like they say like, we're going to summarize design your life because this is how we got well known. Get curious, talk to people, try stuff, tell your story. And I was like, well, okay, there we go. I'm pretty sure, Mike, didn't we redesign your life or did we redesign your work life? I can't remember for the life of me.
Oh, good question. I can't remember, but when they had those words in that simple phrase, I remembered that from the Nathan Barry episode.
Okay. Yeah,
they did discuss that in there.
We read, I think it was Design Your Life. I'm pretty sure that's what we read. Okay, so anyhow, so let's move forward through here. They talk about a concept called Weltschmerz, which is world pain or world sorrow, the dissatisfaction between worlds and the world as we know it and the world as we should be. They talk about wicked problems, which they are very big on wicked problems. This is a thing that I learned about in graduate school. They talked about reframing. They then basically go into this idea that this book is in 2 sections. We're going to have the big ideas in the mindset section, and then we're going to have the tools and the practices, and they're going to work us through all of those things. But the last thing I want to say they stress in this introduction is basically they own it. They're like, we are designers. This is a design book. It's going to help you make meaning if you use the tools, if you try the principles, if you do the things that we ask you to do. Our nature is not to just give you a book for head knowledge. Our nature is to give you a book to actually try and apply and go do the things, right? And that's a nutshell of what their introduction hits.
Yeah,
Anything?
That's a great intro. I like that term, the Weltschmerz. I don't know why that stood out. I thought maybe I'd heard that before, but also like I can't place where I heard that before. So maybe they talked about it in a different book. But the 2 sections of the book is kind of interesting to me because it set up perfectly for 2 different parts. And I had to go check after that, reading that part in the introduction is like, how did they set up the table of contents? It's totally not 2 different parts. It's chapter by chapter. And all the chapters are formatted the same way where they've got the information and then the exercises at the end.
Yep. Yeah, so they don't separate it there. And I actually double took when I said it. So I don't know if you heard me when I was doing the introduction part. I was like, did they break it into 2? No, they didn't. They just listed 8 chapters. So, but it's definitely in 2 parts.
So let's unpack that a little bit. Do you think it would have helped if they had broken it down into 2 parts?
Not for me. No, I didn't have any problems with. Honestly, I didn't remember that they separated into the 2 sections. I just thought idea, tools. So
sure.
It didn't impact me at all.
Yeah, I feel like it was I feel like if they did break it into 2 parts, it would have helped a little bit more in terms of the organization of the ideas. And maybe it's just coming off of the heels of the Way of Excellence, where it was very distinctly 2 different parts. I really didn't care for the first part and absolutely loved the second part. So that one, they explicitly said, feel free to skip the first part. And they didn't say that with this book, but I feel like maybe there's a scenario where that would be good advice. It's like, just get into the tools, the 5 different things in the last part of the book. But I don't know. I just felt like if you're going to describe about how the book is broken into 2 parts, make it easy for people and just explicitly call it the parts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, ready to go to chapter 1?
Yep.
All right, so chapter 1 is meaning and purpose reframed, and we need to start with the key word of this chapter, and that is the word reframe, because essentially that's what they're trying to get us around this idea or this mindset of reframing things. So they'll tell you that reframing is a designer's power tool, that when you reframe, you are like changing your perspective on something, or you're trying to figure out like a different way to look at something. And they are doing that they give a big story in this about how like they went through this whole process with the Design Your Life, and everybody came, and then people would come back and they'd say, yeah, but I'm just not, or there's something missing, or there's this thing. And they had to reframe. And they had to think about like, is there another way to look at at people's lives? Is there another way to look at psychology? Is there another way to look at these things? Now, they hit the word passion. So, Mike, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to see if you want to talk about the word passion. Mike loves the word passion, if you don't know that. But they also will talk about the 3 frames of dysfunctional belief. Okay. And those frames are impact, fulfillment, and particularity. Okay. So they're going to hit those 3 sorry, did I say frames? I meant reframes. So the 3 reframes of dysfunctional belief. So impact, fulfillment, and particularity, which we can unpack those if you want to. And then in their try stuff section, they're going to talk about an impact assessment, a fulfillment assessment, and a particularity assessment. So they're going to be cohesive there when it comes to those things. I think the thing that stood out the most to me out of this chapter was the particularity reframe, is thinking about it like embracing the here and now, not thinking about more and future and different and the other thing, but like really saying like, embrace the particularity in this moment. This is where we find meaning and purpose. Get the most out of this particular moment. And I think that was kind of my biggest takeaway out of this chapter.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job of describing that the moments are the things that really matter. I guess my big takeaways from this chapter are to get more out of life. You can't cram more into it. You know, a more is not a path to a meaningful life. They did talk a little bit about passion, but said that it's not about finding my passion. It's about finding out how to live passionately. So you're right. I think, take issue with the word passion that they use here, but also because of the reframe, I'm willing to let that one go.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
I think the main idea here of this book is not trying to help you find the meaning of life, but find meaning in life is a very powerful lens to think about the world through. And I don't know. I feel like this first chapter kind of does the job. It gives you enough of don't think this way, think this other way.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of get you moving in that direction, but also does not feel very prescriptive, which I think is key when you're tackling a topic like this.
Yep. If we jump into these try stuff points a little bit more, so basically what they want you to do is like essentially a point of view assessment, and they break that into the 3 things: impact, put your roles in order of importance. How does the impact make me feel? Does the impact seem to make me a better person? Then they say fulfillment assessment. Would you rather be fulfilled or fully alive? How does self-transcendence, which self-transcendence, what they're going to say is Maslow's hierarchy of needs ends at self-actualization. And they say, actually, there's a step above that, and that's self-transcendence, which I don't want to unpack that right now. If you want to, Mike, I'm happy to. But so they say, how does self-transcendence resonate? And then they say particularity. How often do you feel like something's missing? How often do you embrace the moments in your life? What would it mean if ultimate is unrealistic and everything is really a series of moments? So like these things I think are good assessments, but to your point earlier, Mike, I don't feel compelled to do these. Like there's nothing in these assessments here, impact, fulfillment, or particularity, that I'm like, oh, I have to do those tomorrow. Like if I don't do those tomorrow, I'm missing out. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just they didn't really hit super hard with me, home with me.
I think it's neither a good nor a bad thing. It is evidence of them being academics and not marketers.
Okay.
I still think that the tools and the quote unquote assessments, like I can nitpick some of that stuff, and I would question whether that's the most effective version of the tool to accomplish the thing that they're intending for it. So on one hand, part of me is like, well, that's not the way I would do it. But also part of me is like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So the overall thing bouncing around in my brain as I'm going through this, and I'm feeling the temptation to skip all of the, try stuff sections, is that just getting people to think about living a meaningful life like this is really the win here.
Yeah.
The specifics of the exercises that they get people to go through or the specific questions that they have people ask kind of doesn't matter.
Yep.
You can take different paths, I feel, and still end up at the same destination.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. It's different than just about every other book that we've read that way, I think, where most books, they're going to walk you through these series of steps and they're all going to build on one another, and they're going to end up at this destination where you pull all this stuff together. They don't have like okay, fill in this for section A, fill in this for section B. Maybe in the class they would actually have something like that.
A tool.
Yeah, but I don't know. So I was a little bit surprised by that. The other thing, this is not exactly, I don't think this is from the first section here. Maybe it was the introduction, but kind of like the whole tipping point where someone comes back from, implementing what they did and they're having this crisis and they're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I did all the things that you said I should do, and I'm still really depressed and frustrated. And like, what do I do with this? I feel like the way that they told that story is really effective because it's a little bit self-deprecating, where it's like, oh, we obviously don't have all these answers figured out. They respond in a very curious way, though, and then I feel like the path that they chart forward from there is really interesting in terms of giving people enough to help them sort through this on their own, because really it is a personal journey. You can't do this sort of stuff for people. They have to put in the work.
Yes, sir. Now, if you told me, hey, I'd really like to do these try stuff things with you, Cory, I'd probably be like, okay, Mike, I'll do them with you, right? Like they're interesting enough that I would do them with you, but like I said, they're not as interesting that I would just go out and do all of them on my own as of right now. So hopefully I didn't come across too far as like I was thinking they were bad. It's just a matter of certain ones resonated and other ones didn't. All right, you ready to move to chapter 2?
Yep, let's do it.
So chapter 2 is think like a designer. You have to know, as you're thinking through this book, these guys are designers through and through. They work at the design school. They think about designing. Like, the fact that they didn't name this book with the first word design is shocking to me. Although they did incorporate design thinking into the subtitle as quickly as they could. So
one of the guys, is it Bill Burnett, like designed the first mouse for the Apple Mac?
I can't remember which one it was. But one of them, yes, was the first mouse. He worked on like the Lisa computing system and designed the first mouse. Yeah. So they're designers through and through, I mean, without a doubt. Anyhow, so they say prototype iteration is the secret sauce. They would say that you're going to think about meaning is designing moments. Like, that's kind of a way you'll think about that. You then want to get into this designer's mindset, and in their designer's mindset for meaning making, and they're very specific. It's the designer's mindset for meaning making: wonder and mystery, availability, radical acceptance, fully engaged but calmly detached, create your world. Those are like the 5 components that they would have, and then they combine those later on in the chapter, and they say if you combine radical acceptance and availability, it's like icing on the cake, like bonus points. If you combine availability and wonder, it's icing on the cake and it's bonus points. So, Mike, I'm going to turn this to you first, and I'm going to say, did any of the 5 designer mindsets stand out to you more than others, and which ones, if they did?
I liked the fully engaged and calmly detached.
Okay.
That's the one that I wrote down. Actively participating, but realizing you can't control the outcome. And I guess the reason that one resonates with me is that I understand that intellectually, but I have trouble practicing it. I have trouble detaching from the outcome, because the thing here is that you can make the right choice and still not get the right outcome. So you can't judge whether you made the right choice based on the result of the choice that you made. I also like the statement that you can't solve a problem you're unwilling to accept. So that's where the fully engaged part comes in. And it actually, the perspective that I got from this is a little bit along the lines of extreme ownership. Everything is your responsibility. And I don't know, like there's there's definitely a truth to that. I guess the term for that I think most accurately describes it is self-determination, but that's not as sexy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really, I think, what they're after here, though, is getting people to take ownership of the ability to chart their course and design their life. And so this chapter, Think Like a Designer, I really like. The whole idea of the lifestyle design and the way that they describe it, I feel like is very effective and very approachable for people who maybe are coming into this from I don't know, like in the productivity world that I have been in for a very long time. It feels like you use different buzzwords to describe things, and there are certain ways of describing this sort of stuff that people tend to gravitate towards. Lifestyle design, I feel like, is not one of those words, and that's a good thing for the majority of the general public that may pick up this book.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. One of the things I think is interesting is how consistent they are. So in the introduction, they describe design your life in those four things. I don't remember exactly how they did it, but it's curiosity, it's something else. I don't remember what the second one was. Then it's try stuff and tell your story. So I forget what the second one is. And if you look over these 5 design mindsets, wonder and mystery, curiosity, right?
Yep.
Availability is partially curiosity, right? Like it's like I'm available to be curious. I'm open to that. When you get into the fully engaged, calmly detached, okay, right now they're thinking try stuff, like engage, participate, like get out there and do it, and don't worry about the result. Yep. Let the result go, and then you get to the create your world, number 5, and it's tell your story. Like know your personal story, design your personal story. Essentially, look for patterns and tell your story. They're incredibly consistent here. They've just taken those things and gone, hey, how do we adjust this to meaning? And like, what does this look like when it's adjusted to meaning? So I think that's interesting, and I like that they're consistent. If you go to the try stuff section, okay, this one they're going to say day start statements. What are mantras to start your day, or what are things that'll start your day? And for some reason, I don't know if they say this or not, or if I got this from another book, maybe like a David Goggins book or something like that. I always think about putting the sticky note on the mirror. So every time I think about the mantra, it's like, what's the sticky note on the mirror, or what's the thing that's like on my car where the speedometer is that you're going to see it every day when you drive. And I think about those mantras. I love the got to get to reversal. Absolutely love the got to get to reversal, because I often will think in my mind, I've got to go do this thing. I got to go do this thing. Framing that as I get to go do this thing. It's my privilege to go do this thing. Even when I'm not, it can't hurt. Like it's gotta help me. As much as I say that I like that one, the reframe ladder was too much for me. Like I don't know if you remember the reframe ladder, but
no, I wrote down 0 of these like try stuff things in my notes.
Okay. All right. So you put stuff on the bottom rung, you transfer it up. What would I get if I whatever? And you do this whole like rung thing, and you're trying to move these things up their ladder. And I was just like, nah, like not for me. Like as much as the got to get to reversal works, this one doesn't work for me.
Yeah, none of them work for me.
Okay. Anything else on chapter 2?
Nope.
All right, let's go to chapter 3, A Tale of Two Worlds. So in this one, you're going to have the transactional world and the flow world. I have never heard anybody describe this as the transactional world. Have you?
No, I like that term a lot, though.
Yeah, me too. Like I thought this was really, really good. Flow, you and I have talked about. There have been a bunch of people talk about flow in different ways and getting into that flow state and all that. But I had never heard anybody talk about the transactional world and how most of us live in this transactional world where it's the day-to-day, get stuff done world. It tied into something we've read in previous books, which I think you've brought up and discussed, is the finite and infinite games. Whereas transactional world, you're playing a finite game. It's a game with an ending that we're trying to get to a result. The flow world is total immersion, complete focus, time stands still. It is this infinite game. We're not worried about the individual transaction thing, but we want to go into this other state, if you will. Throughout the whole, I'll call it out here. I don't remember the details of the story. I think this might have been where was Fritz the guy who was going into work to give the presentation, Am I remembering that right,
I
Mike?
can't remember.
Yeah, okay. So, but he'll tell stories throughout this book, or they'll tell stories throughout this book, and I think most of these stories are people in their actual classroom or that they've interacted with through the D school, and he basically tells them about how you can live a life transactionally, or you can live a life where you're noticing the things around you and you're alive and you understand the meaning of what's going on around you, even to the point where they present a table. Whereas the difference between transactional focus, task, action, orientation, and role, and then flow focus, flow task, flow action, flow orientation, flow role. I'll stop there for a second. But I think this is an interesting perspective. If nothing else, the transactional world perspective, I think is really interesting.
The thing I liked about the transactional world and the flow world, the thing that kind of solidified it for me was the topic of the finite games and the infinite games.
Yeah.
Which we've read some book around that topic, but there's this OG book that every time people talk about it, they reference. We should probably cover that one at some point. Yeah. I know you like that topic too. The whole idea of flow, I like a lot. I have to say, I don't think I really love their reframing of Mihali's diagram around flow. I'm not sure I completely agree with the direction that they took that. Also, my local library had a book sale the other day. So I went in and I picked up like 10 books for $8 or something like that.
Okay.
Including an original hardcover version of Flow, which I have not seen anywhere. Like you can't really get them on Amazon. It's I don't know when the book was originally published. It's like 1980 something, 1990. Yeah. So that was I was pretty excited to find that. But I do think that the flow state coming from the flow world is an important topic and an important understanding to have.
Yeah. So Mike, here's a question for you. I think there's a version of Bookworm and or a series in Bookworm, if we would choose to do this, where we like go back and we look at the classics. And some of them you've already done. So therefore those ones we can already check that box. But like if we have a book that's been referenced so many times in all the other books that we haven't read or talked about yet, we should probably do that, right? Because we try to run this balance of those really seminal, important books and then the new ones, like the new books that come out. And we try to do that balance. And then every once in a while, you and I will throw a wild card in there, which is probably gonna be my next book. But like, but like, I think there's a series of our thing where we look at finite and infinite games, or we look at flow or whatever it is.
I'm game.
Oh, your game? Okay, awesome. Fantastic. Okay, so I don't really have much else that's coming out of this one. They talked a little bit about like achieving brain and awakening brain, and like the fact that they want to get to more of this awakening brain. So they're really, honestly, like if I'm kind of looking at it clearly, they're really coming down hard on the transactional world, even though they say you have to do it. You're never going to get away from the transactional world. Outcomes and doing these things are necessities. But really what you want to get to, if you want to find meaning and purpose and joy, is this awakened world, in this new world. The only try stuff they offer here is they call it the flip the world switch. So you like act like you're flipping a switch and you change from the achieving world to the awakening world, or the transactional world to the flow state. That's really the only try stuff they have. And again, this one didn't hit that hard for me. The idea of flow, Mike, doesn't really do it for me. Like I get it, I understand it. I don't know. I'm not a flow kind of guy. Like it just doesn't do it for me.
Well, I feel like if you're optimizing for flow, you're going to be disappointed. It's one of those things that you kind of just have to celebrate it when it shows up.
Yep.
And be like, oh, that was cool. Set
and
up your environment to maybe, tap into that a little bit more frequently. But if you're, checking a box, did I experience flow today, or did I experience enough flow today? That's never gonna produce any sort of happiness.
And these authors would say our goal is to help you figure out a way to find yourself in that flow state more often. Yep. I think that's what they would try to drive home.
Yep.
All right, I'm ready for chapter 4.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so the wonder formula. So to not hide the wonder formula, let's go straight to it. Curiosity plus mystery equals wonder. So curiosity plus mystery equals wonder. That is the wonder formula. That basically the designer sees things a step deeper than most people see it. And they say like, oh, well, that's a flower. But what really is a flower? And they look at that extra step deeper and they try to figure that out. I don't really have a lot here other than like try to find wonder moments or try to be more curious. I mean, like this one didn't, I mean, it was fine. I don't remember thinking this is a terrible chapter, but I just don't have a lot here, Mike.
Yep, me either. Shortest section in my outline, and this may be the reason they decided not to do the sections, because I feel like there is roughly a loose order to these things, and this is the first one in the second section, and it's what do you do with this? Yeah. I think if I were to summarize this whole chapter, it's be aware of those moments of wonder, like have your eyes open for them, because they are everywhere if you know what to look for. But yeah, just stay curious, I guess.
Yep, that's stay curious, my friend. Right, like that's really the gist of it. Because I want to be consistent about the way we're doing the chapters. The try stuff, you put on your wonder glasses and you try to view things through an awakening perspective. Mike, I'm not gonna say okay, good. You shook your head too. I kind of cringe every time we talk about the wonder. Like every time they talked about the wonder glasses, I was just like, I just don't see it, man. Like I no, like the wonder glasses just don't do it for me.
No,
I get be curious. I get the mystery. Wonder glasses don't do it.
Me either.
And then the next one is museum magic, and my statement in my notes is here says not interested in this at all. Like that was my statement here. I've actually done a museum magic event where you went in with little prompting and or no prompting, and you just tried to think about like the open-ended nature and be curious about what the museum was showing. I've done an activity like this, and it was fine, but I can't tell you I got a ton of stuff out of it. It wasn't super impactful.
Yeah.
All right, chapter 5.
Let's do it.
Living a coherent life. So now, coherent, they call it one that truly aligns with your values. And then they bring a topic in, Mike, that is near and dear to your heart, right? Because they start talking about the 3 compass items that should be around for you to get coherency. These compass items are who are you, what do you do, and what you believe. So who are you, what you do, and what you believe. What do you think about this, Mike, as the compass man?
Oh, man. I don't know. Like, I like the idea of the compass, obviously. I even have a saying in the life theme cohort where you need a compass, not a blueprint. You need a direction, not a plan. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if we were to sit down and just have a chat about the topics, I would love talking to these guys. These 3 things, though, I don't really care for these. I think they were trying to get you to like create these documents for these different things, right? Yeah. Which when I heard about that, I was like, no, I don't think so. But then also, like, I have my own version of that. I have my life theme. I have my personal core values. Yes, I have my eulogy. I have my ideal future. So I'm not against creating the documents. These 3 just in particular didn't really resonate with me. I think maybe for someone who is going through this as a college class, this is probably a better framing than the stuff that I do. You kind of have to be in the right mindset in order to ask the questions that I would ask. If you're getting somebody who is just taking this class because it sounded interesting and they're going to fit it in with their other classes, this is probably the direction to take. So I don't know. I don't really fault them for it, but also it's not charging my batteries.
Yeah. So you said about they want you to write the things. They give you 4 steps to gain coherency. And basically you're going to build your compass and calibrate it. You're going to take compass readings. You're going to reflect on those readings, and then you're going to recalibrate your compass. And in order to build your compass and calibrate it, you write a story about who you are. You write your work view and you write your life view, which this is very common to them. And it ties back into that design your life stuff where you do these different Odyssey views of, if everything is normal, here's what life looks like. If everything goes crazy, here's what life looks like. And then if the world's my oyster, here's what life looks like. So they're very consistent in in terms of these things.
Yeah, and see, that's the stuff I don't really care for. Like the whole distinction of the work view and then the life view. I don't really like the idea of the work-life balance. It's really just your life, and you got to figure out how it all ties together. By separating those, you kind of are implying that, well, you're not just what you do, so the life view should be more important than the work view. But then they also say that the number one place where people report that they experience meaning in their lives is at work. Yep. So how are you going to reconcile these sorts of things? I kind of feel like it's a little bit of an arbitrary distinction, which maybe gets in the way.
Got it. All right. So let's go to the try stuff section of this. Well, the first thing they want you to do is they want you to build that compass. So they want you to do those 4 steps to build your compass and refine it. And then they have this thing called a coherency sightings log. Well, before they've defined coherency sightings is basically you want to, how do I say this? You want to like write down instances in your life where what you do, who you are, and what you believe kind of all come together and converge on this same activity or moment, they would say, if we're going to stay with their thing, and then just keep a log of those. So that's the 2 tasks.
I don't want to keep that log. I think it is a kind of cool idea, but also maybe it's something that you just need a little bit of a feel for. You don't need a formal process for documenting coherency, or maybe that's just me because I'm fascinated by this stuff. I don't know. I will say one thing they mentioned in here, which is not in the try stuff section, but before that, they mentioned that anytime you are changing your situation or going through a transition, that is a great opportunity to stop and recalibrate your compass. Yep. I think that is very good advice.
Yeah. Do you think you do the coherency sightings with your gratitude?
I guess that is a way of thinking about it, but I don't know. I didn't really think of it that way.
Okay.
I think a different version of that is just my whole personal retreat process, where I'm thinking about, I have those different parts of the retrospective. So the first part is what did I accomplish? Celebrate your wins. What went well? What could have gone better? And I'm just jotting down everything that comes to mind there. I'm not taking action on these things. It's just a brain dump at that point. And then what should I start doing, stop doing, keep doing? And you combine that with the fact that I do it every 3 months. I feel like that gives me the same sort of benefit with the coherency sightings, because I'm trying a bunch of stuff and I'm getting evidence for what actually works.
Yeah.
And the cadence there, I think, is the important thing, where you shift out of actually just doing the things to thinking about the way that you're doing the things and what you're engaging with, and maybe I should change things up.
All right. If you're ready, I'm ready. Chapter 6.
Let's do it.
All right. So in chapter 6, we are looking at finding flow. Flow, a state of peak performance and aliveness. And they would say that aliveness directly correlates to meaning or purpose. They would tie back into what they've talked about before in the mindset section and say it's where self-actualization meets this particularity and this moment driven nature of things, or it's where a particular skill is being used in an effective way. They say to get more peak flow opportunities, we need to leverage radical acceptance and availability, which again ties back into the mindsets that they've talked about before. So we need to accept the challenge and retain our full attention. We need to boost the deployment of our attention whenever with being more available to it. And they say this is a peak flow state. Now, they make a big distinction here between peak flow, which is what we often think about when we talk about flow. Hold on. I know you're Mike's shaking his head if you're not watching the video. But like they talk about peak flow, which is basically this: I got lost in the activity, completely like kind of consumed with what I was doing. And then they say simple flow is more common, right? And simple flow is, Mike, I don't even know if I can like describe what simple flow is. What's simple flow? Just like I lost 15 minutes to like the Excel spreadsheet I was working on? Or how would you describe that one?
I don't think this is a thing.
Okay.
But I guess based on the diagram that they have in the book, it's the thing where your skill exceeds the challenge. So it's pretty easy for you to do those things, but basically there's a range there which they are calling simple flow. And I get what they're saying with this, but I feel like this diagram is not one that I agree with.
Yeah. I actually kind of forgot about the diagram until you just brought that back up, because I was like, I didn't remember there was a diagram. So there is a very interesting diagram, if you read this, that shows you a flow channel, and then it shows you a peak flow area, a simple flow area, bored and anxious, and challenge and skill. And I forgot they related it to challenge and skill. So I'm actually glad you reminded me of that.
And this is a revision of a diagram from Mihali's research, but it wasn't the flow book necessarily. It was like a follow-up work to that, where he had these different quadrants for this graph, where the y-axis is the challenge and the x-axis is the skill. I feel like this is a misinterpretation, though, of what that follow-up visual to the original research on flow was really getting at.
Yeah, and here's where I maybe disconnect a little bit with the writing style of the authors. So we can talk about this in style and rating a little bit more, but I'll mention it here. He talks about extended flow and having these periods where like you're so, or you're encouraging yourself, you're more available to be in this flow state. And he talks about chopping onions and like how you can like be in flow while you're chopping onions, and you're listening to the knife go through the onions, and you're feeling the onion. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm never going to do this. Like, I'm just going to chop the onions, and I'm going to put the onions in the thing. And like, I start to go, is that a problem? Like, I think it's okay that I just want to chop the onions and get the onions chopped, because I want to put flow into other things. So yeah. I don't know.
So this kind of gets at kind of my big barrier, I think, with most of the mindfulness meditation stuff that I've ever tried before is there's this, and they even mentioned this I don't know. There's this thing from Buddhism, I think, where it's like before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And the point is focus on the task at hand. But then I agree, the description of all the joy that he is getting from being in the flow, chopping these onions, I'm like, we are not cut from the same cloth.
I kind of agree. Like I kind of agree. Like these just don't resonate with me. We get to the try stuff section, and I'm even more in like that idea of like, I just don't think these activities resonate with me. So magic trees. Do you remember the magic trees one, Mike? Did you even read it? I don't
remember. I do remember coming across that section and immediately thinking of Bob Ross and the Happy Little Trees.
Okay. So not windy day. You pay attention to the trees so much to where you can see the like leaves shake a tiny little bit, and then it's impossible to not look at the tree and see the leaves shake a tiny little bit. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. Like we've gone a little too far here. Yeah. Then there's the walking flow meditation, the take a sniffari.
Okay? I remember that one.
The peak flow. So just so you know, if you didn't read the book yet, a sniffari is when you go around and instead of using your eyes, which we are visually people sensitive, we're using like smell, and we're trying to smell everything in our environment. Sound, touch would be the exact same thing. The flip the world switch, as he talked about in chapter 3. I think this was the hardest, least connected section of the book for me. Chapter 6 was the least connected section of the book for me, and I struggled with it the most, I think.
Agreed, because the topic of flow is not an easy one to understand to begin with, and then they took Mihali's research in a little bit of a different direction. And maybe some of the stuff that they're talking about here, this works for some people, but it does not work for me. I will admit that. And, the whole idea of like the getting the joy out of cutting the onions, part of me, when I read that section, I hear him describing it, I feel a little bit bad. Like maybe there's something wrong with me that I'm not able to do that.
Me too. Yes. Okay. We're kindred spirits here.
But I also think, having processed it, that for me at least, the value comes from, as we talked about in the first section with the whole idea of the mindfulness meditation app. For me, the goal there is not to completely lose track of time and master, mindfulness. It's to train my brain. It's used to jumping all over the place. So focus on the task at hand. Would it be better for me to just focus on the task at hand while chopping the onions? Yes. And would I like to be in the spot where those little things, I can get so wrapped up in them that I'm just completely engulfed in the moment. I think actually, if I'm honest, I would say yes. I would like to be able to do some of that stuff. But also, I don't think that there is anything wrong with me because I'm not like that when I'm chopping the onions. And a lot of the stuff that I read about this, by describing it that way, it makes it feel a little bit unattainable.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like the more I think about this, the more I think maybe there's not something wrong with me. maybe there is just a version of this that clicks for me, and that's okay. And I don't know, like the way that they couple these things together in this chapter makes flow feel like something that is so far out there and woo-woo and spiritual that you got to click into a different plane in order to get to it. And that's not completely fair because it's not exactly what they're saying, but it's the argument that my brain makes by the way that they connected these dots. So I kind of wish they hadn't done that.
Yeah, like I can't agree with you more. Like there's a disconnection here for sure. And it's, I can't say that they're wrong, but I also can't say that you and I are wrong or that I'm wrong. The one thing that I think about as I think through chapter 6, I think this book or this chapter changes if I think about it as gratitude instead of flow. And I think that it resonates a little bit more with me for always trying to find gratitude. Like, okay, I'm walking in from my truck and I notice like, man, I'm just so thankful that I live in Colorado and it's sunshiny here all the time. Like, that's not necessarily, I'm not looking for the flow state there, but I'm looking to acknowledge that is like, I'm very grateful for that. For that thing. Now, I'm sure there's a problem with the way I'm thinking about it because I haven't thought about it all that hard, but that's just kind of where my brain goes. Is gratitude seems to fit better with me than flow does in the argument.
So there's another dimension to this, which I'm realizing as you're talking about the gratitude piece. I'm actually working on a newsletter right now. The working title is The Amateur Advantage. And it was inspired by a Rick Rubin quote that I came across while listening to a podcast recently about playing to win versus playing to play. And immediately tied back to like the finite versus infinite games that they were talking about in this book while I was reading it. And the word amateur comes from another word which basically means love. So we've kind of given amateur a different definition as like not professional or not of high quality, when really amateur means you do the thing because you love the thing, not because
you're not getting paid for it.
You're not getting paid for it. It has nothing to do with the outcome. So I think that is very much in alignment with what he's describing with the chopping the onions, where whatever I'm doing, can I be so invested in it and find joy in the moment? That is a different way of thinking about this that actually does resonate with me.
Yeah.
But also, like, how do you work in then that idea of amateur with the skill and the challenge? Like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I think this is not a 2D graph. This is probably a cube.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, let's move on. We're rounding the corner here. We're to chapter 7 out of 8. So chapter 7 is designing formative communities. So Mike, for as much as we kind of like talked about that one and it wasn't negative, but it was more of like didn't really resonate with us one. Oh my goodness, did this one resonate with me? Like, this was the chapter of the book for me. I was like, yes, I love everything you're doing here. Like, keep doing this. I even texted Mike at one point and I was like, man, this formative groups, like communities thing, I'm in. Like, I'm 100% in on this. So formative communities are places where everyone is genuinely interested in seeing you and sharing life together. They typically are formed for 3 reasons: social or fun, collaborative, which is to get something done, and then formation is to get better at something. And they give a framework for starting these: engage, reflect, and storytell.
So and then, real quick, I have to just point this out. Those 3 different groups that you talked about, those are the primary reasons that people form groups. Okay. So there is a social community. That's the first one. Have a good time. There is a collaborative community where you're trying to get something done. The formative community is actually the third one, where you become better together.
Yeah.
So the formative community is not, one of those three things. It is kind of like the third thing. So if you were to view this, I think probably like a hierarchical thing, the formative one is the top, the transcendent level, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. I just thought of it as the three different reasons people typically get into groups, and the informative was one of those three. But I can see where you go with that. Okay, so then he plays out this idea of this focus question: who am I becoming in this season of my life? And that kind of drives a lot of the action or a lot of the discussion in the group. And basically, all I can tell you is, I mean, if you don't read any other chapter of the book, make sure you read chapter 7. It seems great. Like I was fired up. I wanted to leave this chapter and go form some group for everybody getting better and, community building of each other. And I immediately thought of the library. I immediately thought of the mastermind groups you talk about, Mike. I immediately thought of like the community groups that I'm involved in. And I was like, this is why they're so sticky. This is why I like them so much, is because they have so much value, and it's where you share, it's where you tell, it's just where you grow together. And I think that's such a cool, great thing, like just cool and great.
Yeah, this is a really strong chapter. The whole idea of the formative communities is really good. And I had the same thought when I was reading this, is how do I make the library more like this? I think on one level it kind of is already, which is kind of cool. But then also this is where my one action item comes from. I want to consider, how do I make the library even more into a formative community? They've got some critical elements of formative communities that I jotted down. So one, everyone has made a commitment to growing their way forward, to become more coherently and authentically human, and to help others do the same. Second one, there are regular and consistent interactions. The group spends time together communicating and sharing experiences. There is a shared constructor methodology that guides the process the community uses to sustain itself. And the fourth one, the group process for a sufficient period. I think I wrote this one down wrong. The group process for a sufficient period of time to form trusted relationships. Basically, like, you have to show up long enough in order for the relationships to develop. I must have dictated that one and it misheard me.
No worries.
But the chief goal of a formative community, I love this. He says, is to get more out of life without having to cram more into it. And that's the point where I was starting to think about, oh yeah, this is totally the people in the library. And then the other thing that really hits me with this is that a formative community meeting is like a potluck. Everyone needs to bring a dish so that everyone gets fed. This changes everything when it comes to building an online community for me, because I have historically created these courses and thrown, the Practical PKM hybrid cohort, the life theme cohort. You get access to all this stuff. Nobody goes through the courses. What people want when they join a community like this is they want transformation. But even that, I don't want it to be transactional. A community doesn't work when something is transactional. Once you get the result, you're done, you leave. Which, honestly, if I'm done providing value to you at that point, that's the way it should be. But that's not the way I want it to be. And I don't really care, I care that I make enough money to support my family, but I don't really care how much I charge for facilitating this nice place on the internet where people can come and get this sort of stuff. And I recognize that I can't deliver what people really need all by myself. I need to have a whole bunch of people who are going to buy into this as well. And I notice this whenever we do like the Ask the Library Anything calls, or any of the sessions where we're just talking and sharing as opposed to me teaching something. It's like, those are the ones that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I hope that other people feel the same way. But that's kind of the thing I'm thinking about, is like, how do I facilitate more moments like that?
Yeah.
Where it's just like, we're going to talk about this topic, and I'm not going to, come tell you this is the way, but we're going to just have a discussion about it, and people are going to figure out how to apply this stuff for themselves. That's really exciting to me.
Yeah, I can see that. So they list some try stuff here at the end of this one as well. Mike, if you didn't write down the designing a formative community try stuff details, you're wrong, and you should have, and shame on you, because that was the best try stuff in the whole book, in my opinion. And basically they walk you through like, hey, here's how you do it. Here's the homework for the first meeting. Here's the second meeting. Here's a third meeting. Here's an example agenda. Like, I just think they do a really good job walking you through getting started on a formative community.
I agree that those are good ways to get started with a formative community. However, I did look at those and I was like, I'm not doing these.
Okay. Okay.
And I think part of it is that I'm like halfway there. I have in some ways a formative community that I want to make more formative. And I agree with the steps that they outline. If you were starting from scratch and you were just trying to attract your tribe and you're going to create a formative community, but the library already has a charter. It already has a membership guide. Like the bones are there already. So I'm not going to blow that all up and be like, okay, let's just start from scratch.
Yeah, I completely agree that you're in a different place having started or having already developed a community.
Yeah.
All right. So chapter 8, it's our last full chapter, ages and stages. So basically this whole thing, and I honestly think this chapter demonstrates a big driver in the book is these guys are moving to a different stage in their life. And as they move into this different stage of their life, they're thinking about design differently, and they're thinking about humanity differently, and they're thinking about their own personal lives differently. And yes, the students, the 20-something-year-olds or the 30-something-year-olds, but like Bill said, he works actually not with the 20-year-olds anymore. He works with people that are in their 60s and 70s, I think 80s, that are willing to come back for a year to Stanford and do like a design sabbatical, essentially, around their life. So, and I forget what the name of the organization is, Mike. I don't know if you have it written down or not, but
I do not.
Yeah. So, but he works with older folks, and he sees this all the time. So it congeals, everything fits together, and everything works well together. But basically, I think this was a big driver of why they wrote this book is they're experiencing this shift right now. But basically, they're saying in the first half of life, we build ourselves. In the second half of life, we try to give that away. And what we want to think about is like, okay, transactional to focus world. In the first half of our life, it's a largely transactional, but can we make that more focus? Mm-hmm. In the second half, how do we even then double, triple, quadruple down on that focus and really shirk a lot more of that transactional? They talk the one phrase that came out of here that I thought was really, really cool: embrace elderhood. This idea like, okay, if you become the elder in the group, instead of pushing back and saying, oh my gosh, I'm the old man, I'm the elder in the group, embrace that process and say like, hey, listen, these folks are going to look up to me because, I'm the elder in the group. And I have a different perspective of that because of my faith background and what elder means in our church setting and those kind of things. So it's more of a respected idea and a respected position. But like, I didn't even think about it as tribes or whatever it is. Like there's the elder in the tribe, and where do you go for advice and wisdom and stuff? You go to the elder. So it's like, I think it's a cool way to think about that transition through the different ages of your life or through the different stages of your life.
This is a weird last official chapter of the book because they are basically restating an idea shared by others previously, but they sort of split the credit for the idea into two different places.
Okay.
One is The Second Mountain by David Brooks, which I love that book.
Uh-huh.
The other one is, I think maybe even the inspiration for that one, and that is a book by Richard Rohr. And the whole thing just gets a little bit muddy. I forget what that book is, but I actually have that book on my bookshelf as well. So if I were to have rewritten this chapter, I think I would just focus on the David Brooks Second Mountain piece, because that's the one that's more popular. And yeah, they're basically saying the same thing, but they're kind of jumping all over the place here, and then sort of kind of layering in some original stuff on top of it, like the embrace elderhood. But it's not enough original stuff here to justify a chapter, because there's not that many chapters in this book. And it feels weird that this is the one that they end on to me. Okay. I agree it's a powerful idea. I don't know how you could possibly have worked this in alongside the other stuff, but I feel like I really would have tried to.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff here where it's like, I sort of heard this before. You're really not going into it deep enough to really really talk about it effectively. There's another book that we've actually read, which I think speaks to this too a little bit, and that's have it right here, From Strength to Strength by
Strength to Strength. Yep.
Arthur Brooks, not David Brooks, not related.
See, and that was the one I got it mixed up with. When you said The Second Mountain by David Brooks, I was like, oh yeah, that's the one we read.
Nope.
No, we read Arthur Brooks's From Strength to Strength.
Yeah, and they're both great books, but the point being, I guess, that like you could grab these main ideas from a million different places. And I remember being at Macstock, actually the first time I met David Sparks, I think, in real life. He was at the conference. So we went to a coffee shop. It was David, me, JF, a couple other people from the conference, and we were talking about something that I had made, and I was like, well, David, do you have any feedback for me? Like probably a bookworm episode, to be honest. And I remember him being a little bit hesitant to share it. And I was like, no, I want to know, like, how could it get better? And he's like, well, you don't need to give everybody else credit for every idea you ever have. You can just own some of this stuff. You always take it in a little bit different direction and you apply your own flavor to it anyways. Like it's got the Mike Schmidt's fingerprint on it. So you don't need to just like cite all these different places that you get all these different things from. Yeah, maybe they inspired it, but you're synthesizing it and you're making it your own. That's what was going through my head when I was reading this chapter.
Okay.
It's like, okay, we're trying to give credit to everybody who ever talked about this topic before.
Yeah.
I don't, and it's just kind of like, well, where did this come from? You know,
Yep.
It gets a little bbit too muddy, a little bit too complicated. Like, you're right. There's the two halves of life, and no one would have. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say that, but what I was gonna say is, if they would have just been like, this is how you should think about your life: the first half and the second half. First half, you're building something. Second half, you're giving it away. I feel like that would have been a much stronger close, as opposed to, well, David Brooks talks about this, and Richard Rohr talks about this, and embrace elderhood, and from 18 to 28, those are your Odyssey years. Like, there's too much going on here, and it's not coherent enough. It's like, this is really what you do with this in terms of the ages and stages. If you are here, think about this. If you're here, think about that. That's really what this should have been. How do I am, fill in the blank. I am so many years old. Based off of everything that you've read here, do this next. Do that next. Like, it should be, this is the part where it should be prescriptive. It's like, now you understand all this stuff. Start working through this, building your own compass. And for your specific situation, this is the way you got to think about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't gotten there. So I like that. I like hearing that. I did like the fact that they talked about parents, right? And they acknowledged us. So yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for acknowledging us. But then the try stuff, right? Just to wrap that up, basically the try stuff is, hey, we said a bunch of other stuff that you should try. And this stuff applies in the ages and stages as well. And they didn't really hit anything new here. All right, so let's move to the conclusion. Living a meaningful life. Part of what they do is they wrap everything up by revisiting certain topics. You don't need to wait. There is no finish line. Life is a particularity. Use radical acceptance. Then they really hit hard on design, right? Like, design your way. There is no way, design your way. You need to be proactive in this. Use a formative community. Use the raw materials you have. Accept what you have. Radical acceptance kind of a thing. So honestly, like for me, the conclusion section, I read it and was just like, okay, like, good, like, done. I did not get anything, I guess, new or exciting out of the conclusion section.
I don't think there's anything new in here, but yeah, meaning isn't something you find, it's something you design. We can all live a meaningful life right here, right now. There is no finish line. Well, one thing actually that did stand out to me was that you're not late. There is no late in the flow world. That resonates with me because recently I've had a couple conversations with people where a borderline shared, like, I kind of sort of semi have a regret that I didn't try to go out on my own right out of college, because I had a feeling that blogging was going to be big and I just didn't really do anything with it. I could have been a content creator a long time ago, and I feel like if I had done that, I would have been able to build a business that was more mature and more sustainable than, where I'm at right now. Present me would have loved for past me to have taken that approach and not just taken the safe path. But so yeah, I think that's an important point, and it's probably an encouragement to some folks out there. And then just to keep designing. So I think it's a fairly effective conclusion. Pretty short. The whole book is pretty short. I mean, it's 208 pages, and probably 50 of it is the try stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel like if they're trying to give us a succinct summary of finding creating a meaningful life, they did that well. But also, I'm not sure that was the right approach. I don't know. I guess we'll get to that in style and rating.
All right, so let's move on to action items. I have 2 action items here. One is I want to revisit the focus question. So they describe this in the same chapter as the formation, the community formation. And basically it's like, who am I becoming in this season of life? And what is the presenting problem, or what is the focus question, not the presenting problem? So a focus question is about who I'm becoming. It's about formation. And I just want to revisit that. I haven't done that. I haven't made that thought in quite a while. So I want to think about that. And then the second one is there a formative community that needs to be developed? Do I need to be the starter of a formative community? And I guess aside to that one that I'm probably not going to write down, but is there one that I need to join? Because that might be the healthier approach for me right now at this season in my life, is not to start my own, but to join one that already exists. So, Mike, how about you?
That would be the healthier option.
Yes, it would be the healthier option. So, Mike, what about you?
Well, I just have the one, and actually I had none for a long time. I added this one as we were talking through the chapter 7, but I want to consider how to make the library a more formative community. There's lots of potential action items in every single chapter. It's kind of weird to me that every time I encounter stuff like that, I'm like, nope, no action items for me.
Yep. That is interesting. All right, let's go to style and rating. It is my book, so I will start. Overall, Mike, I like this book. Like, I thought it was pretty good. The try stuff area didn't resonate quite as much with me, but there were a couple home runs that came out of this chapter. Like chapter 7 was a home run for me. Thinking about, just some of the mindset and kind of concept things, the transactional versus flow world, right? Like, while I'm not a huge fan of flow, I like the idea that we think too much in the transactional world. And I like that piece came out. I thought they told good stories. I thought it was an interesting read that was credible because of all their background, because of working with all of these individuals from such a wide range of it. They had credibility for me from Design Your Life, and I've used it and it's been effective. So they were already starting above the normal author to me, right? Because they had built some clout with me in that. So, I mean, overall, do I think this is the best book I've ever read? No. Do I think that I will share this book as widely as possible, or more widely than I've ever shared it with anybody else? No. Do I think that if people come to me and they ask me for a book on meaning and purpose and joy, will I think of this book first? No, I don't think I will. Do I know the book I'll think of first? Not right now. But do I think it'll be this one? I don't think it will be. Do I think there are a couple pieces of this book that I'm going to pull out and I'm going to use in my teaching? I'm going to use in my mentoring. I'm going to use in my advising other people. I do. I think there are these few 2, 3, 4, 5 core concepts that will stick with me and they'll resonate with me. I don't see this as a book that it's 5 years from now I'm going to go, man, I should read that How to Live a Meaningful Life book again. I think it's going to do it. I think I'll go look at my notes and go, oh yeah, I remember the gist of that book. So what does that mean for my rating? For my rating, I think that sits this book at a 3. I think it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It's kind of right down the middle for me. And I feel pretty good about that. So I'm going to rate this book a 3, and I'm very intrigued to see what you rate this book, Mike.
Oh man, what do I rate this book? Well, first of all, let me say, you're do I know which book I would recommend to someone who's interested in this topic? No, I don't know either, but I think I may have just purchased the one that ends up being that. We've talked about Arthur Brooks from Strength to Strength. He has a new book out called The Meaning of Your Life. And I feel like it's probably very similar in terms of the topic for this one, but also I heard him talk about this, I think, on the Cal Newport podcast, and some of the stuff that he was sharing, I was like, that's the way to think about this. I was getting real excited listening to that. So.
I almost picked this as my next book, but I was like, Cory, you can't do 2 meaning books back to back. Like, you're going to be that guy. So I intentionally didn't do that, but we should put that on the short list for the coming weeks.
Sure. Okay. So style and rating. The style of this book, I think, is pretty phenomenal. It's co-written by 2 people who feel like they're one person, one voice, and that's kind of rare. Most of the time you have a book like this and it's so-and-so wrote this section and you can tell the other person wrote this section, you can tell they definitely jive together. There was one line in particular where they were talking about, like, they both have their experiences and how it gets expressed is very different, but the principles are the same. Mm-hmm. And the way, like, just the whole style, I wish I had written it down, but it was I forget which one is which now, but so-and-so is an atheist, and the other one is a Christian, and is like
Dave is a Christian, Bill's an atheist.
Yeah, but the way that they described it was like so-and-so is a big fan of Jesus, but like it is in the third thing in a list, and it was kind of just like a throwaway comment where it was like I don't know, it was the way that it's written, they were juxtaposing these 2 things. I should have written this down, and it does a very effective job in 2 sentences of framing very important things about these 2 vastly different worldviews, but also combining them in a way where it's like you can see how they found the middle ground. Yep. Okay, that example is like that 2-line example from this book is basically the book in a nutshell. There are not any wasted words, and it is a very concise discussion of these topics written in a very playful, whimsical way where they are self-deprecating a lot of times, talking about their struggles and their stories and the fact that they're tearing up when they're cutting the onions. You know, even though that doesn't really do it for me, that type of thing makes this a very interesting, entertaining read.
Yep.
If you've listened to that Nathan Barry episode that we've talked about, the last couple of episodes, that gives you a perfect representation, I think. Yeah. Hearing them talk on that show and the way that they work back and forth off of each other, you can just tell these are best friends that just enjoy doing life together, and they they made this thing together. And even though they have completely different backgrounds and ways that they think about the big questions, they're thinking about the same big questions, and it's making it, you know, it's really entertaining to watch. It's really entertaining to read. So if you are even remotely interested in the topic, I think this is probably worth a read. Is it the best book on the topic? I think that's an interesting question. When I heard you say that, I was like, oh yeah, definitely not the one that I would probably recommend people pick up if this is really a topic that they're interested in. But I don't really know what that is yet either. Maybe it is that Arthur Brooks book. But I think at the very least, this is a very succinct book. You can skip the whole do stuff section, try stuff sections if it's not working for you. And you can crank through this one in a couple of hours.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if nothing else, it will at least be fun.
Yes. Yep.
I don't think that there's anything in here that was completely transformational for me. I appreciate the fact that they are leading a discussion about these very important topics. I mentioned that the exercises and things that they have people go through are not the ones that I would go through. I think that's completely okay. I think that's actually ultimately a good thing. I think different strokes for different folks, and they've done this with a lot more people than I've done my life theme stuff with. So more power to you. It is working. I'm going to give it 4 stars for all of those reasons. But yeah, not my favorite book, not even my favorite Bill Burnett and Dave Evans book, which I kind of thought it would be based off of the title. But it is kind of what I thought it was going to be, and that is a fun read about a very important topic, which I think will get you to ask some important questions.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to just make sure for the record, if Bill and Dave ever listen to this episode, right? I would love to study under you, and I would love to like learn about design, and I would love to apply design in the Christian education space. Like, by no means am I saying that. I just like, and I'm debating right now, Mike. Has anybody ever changed because I'm like, is it a 4? It's probably more like a 4. I don't know. I kind of feel like a 3, but I'm going wishy-washy. Should I call it a 4? I kind of think I should call it a 4.
All right, go for it.
I think it's a 4 because, like, when I think about it being eternalized on the internet, I'd rather it be eternalized as a 4 than a 3 because I really do think it's more of a 4 than a 3. Okay, so there you go. Wishy-washy. All right, Mike, let's put How to Live a Meaningful Life on the shelf. What is next?
Next is What You're Made For, Powerful Life Lessons from My Career in Sports by George Raveling. This is a guy who was a coach. I know nothing more about his experience, but the foreword, I think, or the blurb on the front, at least, is by Michael Jordan. So pretty influential in the sports world. He came on my radar because I follow Ryan Holiday on social media, and he basically helped get this book published because he met this guy at some function and is like, holy cow, this guy has a lot of wisdom, and I want to write this down so that other people can benefit from it. So I think it'll probably be a fun book to talk about with some interesting stories. At least that's the hope, but I've not cracked this one open yet.
Wonderful. My book is after that. It's going to be Design Love In by Marcus Buckingham. And it's basically about how do you put love into business making and into your business experience. So that's as much as I'm gonna give you right now. So how about Gap books, Mike? Do you have any Gap books?
I do not have any official Gap books. No, hoping that I can get one in, but I don't have anything currently.
I don't hope I'm going to get one in. I'm not going to get one in. There is no chance of a Gap book between this and our next recording. Well, we just want to say thank you all to the Pro Show members. So if you're a Pro Show member, today we talked about, if you're not a Pro Show member, today we talked about me doing Whole30, and then we got into like tracking things and like how we track different things. So if you're interested in listening to that, become a Pro member, and you can hear that part of the show. We also release a bootleg right after the recording, so it's usually 1 or 2 weeks early. It's whenever I can get that turned around, and it's usually the day after, if not the day of. We have a bookworm wallpaper. Mike has generously shared his reading masterclass for the members, for the Pro Show members, and then it's $7 a month. You can go to bookworm.fm/pro. And it'll take you to the Patreon page, and you can sign up there. And thanks again for all the Pro Show members.
Absolutely. One other benefit of the Pro Show, you get the edited episodes usually a little bit earlier too, because I hit publish on the Pro Show after I'm finished reviewing it, whereas we schedule the regular episodes to go out on Friday mornings. So Pro Show listeners last time got it a couple days early.
Yeah. And then if I can make one more request, Mike doesn't know I'm going to do this, but if I can make one more request for folks, if you're enjoying Bookworm, share it. I mean, it helps out. We would love for more people to know about Bookworm and to hopefully get some value out of our discussions for this. So if you're willing to share it on social media and or just, tell other people about it, we'd greatly appreciate that too as well.
We would. All right. If you're reading along with us, pick up What You're Made For by George Raveling, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.